Being a Broadway performer is pretty cool. And a lot of hard work, but getting there is even harder. I'm gonna tell you all about it. I'm Adrienne Walker. Welcome to 32 Bar Cut.
Hello and welcome to Broadway Banter from 32 Bar Cut. I'm Austin Cook. And my wife, Adrienne Walker, is currently downstairs working out because, as you saw in Monday's video about nutrition, which if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. We are starting a whole new chapter, my friends, with our lifestyle. We're eating healthy and we're not doing a fad diet. We're like actually trying to change the way we eat all the time and working out twice a day. And it's a whole lifestyle change. So she's out doing that. And I thought, this week I would do an episode by myself because a lot of people have been asking what my story is, how I got to Broadway. You've heard Adrienne's story if you follow the show, but you haven't heard my story. And it's tough to tell. I haven't really felt comfortable telling this story for a very long time, but now I've kind of like finally come around and been like, what have I got to lose? Nothing. Okay, so I'm going to tell you this story. But before I do, I want to take you to opening night for me of conducting Hamilton on Broadway. The show had already been opened, but it was kind of my opening night. It was my first time doing the show. And I remember getting up to the conductor's podium, which if you haven't seen the show for Broadway, is like in the stage. So my head's like peeking over the stage like this, and the audience is right behind me. I could touch the people behind me if I wanted to. And you hear the buzz, you hear the electricity, you hear people buzzing that the conductor's up there. And I remember seeing Burr in the wings getting ready to make his entrance, his first cross, and the lights going down, and then King George's announcement happening. And then King George's speech finishes. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy my show. Burr starts to make his cross. I wait to my cue where he gets right under the top of the second story of the set. And I start 3 and 4 and bum, 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 bum. Man. To be able to experience that moment in this lifetime is mind-blowing. Just because of how far the journey was to get there. It was a long, hard road. And it's one of those moments, those life-changing moments where you look around and you wonder how you got there. How you made every little decision, every yes and no, every maybe I can, maybe I can't, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't decision. And you end up where you wanted to be. How did it happen? What did you do to make it happen? Is it completely out of your control most of the time? Was there something you did that worked, that got you there? Was there some choice you could have made that got you there sooner? Was there a choice you made that got you there 10 years too late? But to be able to look around and to be conducting Hamilton on Broadway was a dream come true. And I want to share with you the purpose of this video today is not to talk about me. I hate talking about myself. It's not comfortable for me to do. I'm not really active on social media. I'm doing better because of 32 Bar Cut. But social media is hard for me to do. I don't really like talking about myself, but I love talking with other artists and to talk about art itself. Very passionate about making art. But I wanted to make this video for the purpose of encouraging you. I know there are some of you out there watching this video who feel like they'll never make it, who feel like they don't know what the next step is they should take. Should they go down this path? Should they go to school for musical theater? Should they not? Should they go to this vocal coach? Should they not do that? Should they audition for this? Should they not audition for this? Should they go to New York? Should they go to Chicago? Should they go to Germany? What should they do? And I'm just here to share my story, my experience today, and to encourage you along your path and your own personal journey, and encourage you that you can do it. It doesn't matter how far away you think you are from the goal. You may be closer than you think. And if you keep your eye on the prize, you can get there. It may take a while. For me, it took a long time. For others that do what I do, it was right out of school. It was easy. But for me, it was a long time. But did I get there? Yeah, I got there. And you can do the same thing. And I hope that this story encourages you on that quest. Before I get started, if you haven't subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button. All it does, it's free. It just allows you to stay up to date on our videos, to be able to see the latest videos as they come out, and you'll get to enjoy those. And hit that like button, and that tells YouTube that the video is okay, that it's cool, that it's kosher. Okay. So let's get started. One of the things that I get told all the time now that I'm a Broadway music director, conductor, pianist, I always get asked or kind of commented is like, you are an ear player. You play by ear. Like, that's amazing. But wait, you're also like, you read music like instantly, and you're a classical guy and you understand all that. How did you decide to do both? Like, I know musicians that play by ear and jam in bands. And I know musicians that are like classical and kind of stiff, but they're amazing sight readers and all of that. Like, you seem to do both. How is that possible? Well, let me tell you, my friends, my upbringing. I grew up extremely conservative Christian. I was in a private school. I had 20 kids in my class, very small, but I loved music, was very music-centered, my whole schooling. And I also, starting from when I was 4 years old, started studying piano and technique and the Suzuki method. I played violin, trumpet. Of course, piano was my main instrument, but really loved theory. I loved math, and really music theory is a lot of math, same kind of brain. So I instantly took to it. I loved it. I did flashcards as a little kid, like, key signatures and all that, and I just like took to it. At the same time, I was in the church. I was playing for church. I was arranging hymns. I was like hearing hymns that the choir would sing, and then I would go back in home and work on arrangements. I would write my own arrangements of things and compose songs, and I would work on my ear without even knowing that's what I was doing. I just like got good at learning chords. I would listen to the choir sing and learn the chords and learn harmonic structure because of theory, and then kind of apply them. And I was laying the foundation without even knowing it for music, like all of it, from music theory to jamming to all of that. But I wasn't allowed to listen to popular music, rock music, any kind of music other than really like high church, classical music, and opera, and hymns. And that was it. So I didn't have exposure to groove or any of that stuff yet, but I just was very passionate about music and the emotional music and opera. I really took to opera. So I went to school. I had to make the choice what I was going to do with my life. And I should say, too, that I grew up in an art school. I loved art. I loved visual art. My mom is an art teacher. So every night after school, I was going to art school to do art, because that's what my mom did. And eventually I would end up teaching art to the younger kids in high school, and because I loved art. So I had all this artistic upbringing in the visual art world, and then I also had music. I was doing music every morning before school and after school and tours and all this stuff. So I had to decide what to do in college, and I decided, you know what? I want to do piano. So I got my degree. I'll fast forward through all this. I got my degree in piano performance, and I loved opera, conducting operas if I had the chance, and studying opera. So I thought, I'm going to be a conductor. I'm going to be a classical pianist, concerto pianist. I was doing Rock 2, having some success with Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto No. 2 at the time. And I thought, I'm going to tour Europe doing piano and conducting opera. So I did it. I went on this tour all around Europe doing classical music, having some success, but then realizing that, wait a second, like it's not going to work out. I can't sustain this. Like, I wasn't the best. I wasn't winning all the competitions. I was like middle of the road. I was like middle of the pack, very passionate, always good marks on like passionate, blah, 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 emotional, blah, blah, but then technique was like, this technique could use a little work on the, that stuff. So I was always like killing myself in the practice room on scales and technique and blah, 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 killing myself. And I was like, well, what am I doing? Like, I don't think I'm ever going to make it in the classical world. It's so small. And at that time, classical music is shrinking, which it still is, sadly. And it's like, it's getting smaller and smaller and harder and harder and harder to make a career of. So I was like, I got to do something else. Well, I just happened to apply for Walt Disney Entertainment. And I actually got a job, but in the art world. I had all my high school stuff that I had done, and I still drew on the side and stuff, and I had submitted my portfolio in the art world just for kicks. I was submitting to the music stuff and the art stuff, and the art department hired me. So now I have this professional internship with Walt Disney as an artist. And it was amazing. I had the best time. And I was also talking to the music department at the same time, trying to get a job over there from when I retired. And I remember my boss at Disney at the time, she came to me and she said, her name was Wendy, funny enough. Wendy came to me and she said, Austin, one thing to keep in mind is like I see your passion and I can tell that you're a real artist, that you want to create. And she said, as much as we love you here, I think that this might not be the right fit for you because at the end of the day, everything you're doing, all the artwork you're creating is signed Disney, Walt Disney. There's no Austin Cook in the Disney Corporation. It doesn't exist. And I think that you would do better if you like moved to New York and started your own career and did art and, just kind of got out of this smaller world for a little bit. Best advice ever, because here I am now on this crazy journey. But I was very sad to leave. So I left. I was heading to New York. New York fell through. Long story short, I didn't know what to do. So I called my buddy who I went to school with, who was an opera singer, and he was living in Chicago at the time. Chicago has a great music scene, I thought, but I don't know anybody. I don't have any connections in Chicago. I don't know anybody in Chicago. I didn't go to school in Chicago. I don't have family in Chicago. I have no connection to Chicago. I've never been to Chicago, okay? Chicago was completely foreign to me. But I called my buddy John. He says, guess what? I'm looking for a roommate. I don't have a roommate right now. We have a 3-bedroom. We've got 2 roommates, but we need a third. Just come to Chicago instead of New York. I said, okay, in the U-Haul to Chicago, unloaded my stuff at my grand piano that I bought. Actually, my grandma and my mom helped get for me when I was 16 as a gift. It was like a car. Do you want like a little car or do you want a piano? Piano. Anyway, so I took that to Chicago, unloaded it, and here we go. First day I was there, I remember the other roommate, his name was Brian. He was going to some auditions, or somehow it came up about auditions at the theater building in Chicago, which now I think is called Stage 773, which may be called something else now. I don't know. But it was called the theater building in northern Chicago. And I went to auditions there as an actor. And I had never done acting before, but I was like, I like it. I love opera. I've studied these roles. I like, maybe I can be an actor. I did this monologue that I learned really, really quick. And I got the job. Now, you all, this job, it's not that exciting. I was performing. It was basically a job for a year, which was 3 shows in rep for 5 to 8-year-olds in a small black box theater in Chicago when maybe there's 15 kids that show up in the audience. It was the worst of the worst of the worst. The shows were terrible, but there were good people. The actors, we had a good time. And I met Jessica Hunt, the music director for this little show. And then I remember she was gone one day or something, and she they needed a pianist. And I was like, well, I play piano. And she's like, okay, great. And then I played some stuff, and they're like, oh, you really play piano? Wow. And I was like, yeah, this is what I do. I like it. Anyway, and so then that led to subbing for something else. And this is just a terrible little black box theater. I'm performing for 5-year-olds, 10 of them, and they're crying, and they're not even watching. It was just the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. But I'm trying to start somewhere. Ended up subbing for Jessica on another gig. That led to meeting somebody else, which led to meeting somebody else. I'll spare you all those details. And then I end up in Theo Ubiquay in northern Chicago. a small, great little company, non-equity company that is in like a kind of like a coffee shop, little cafe. And it seats maybe 60 people, I don't know, 60 to 70 people. And they do musicals, but they strip them down and they kind of rearrange them and make them really intimate and really cool and atmospheric. Fred, the artistic director of Theo Ukwe, hired me to music direct Some Enchanted Evening, a Rodgers and Hammerstein review. And I said yes. We worked together. And I was terrified. I had never been a music director officially for a show. I should say, too, I skipped over the part that I didn't know what Broadway was. I never heard of Broadway growing up. I don't know what Broadway is, but I had, watched some Disney movies that I was allowed to watch, and I loved the music and that style. I didn't even know that's what musical theater was until later. Then when I worked for Disney, I started listening to all the stuff and like really, really diving into Disney, and really analyzing everything, and loved music and loved the music. And the reason I connected with it so much was because of my love for opera. The problem I always had with opera was that it felt too big. It felt too, I loved the music, that it was big and emotional, and the depth of human of angst. But the problem I had with it was I didn't believe the acting. I was, hold the grapefruit. I used to have a professor that I accompanied for in school. He was in the grad school program, and he always said, "Hold the grapefruit." And when you sing the "Vivo so slappy pastornia." Anyway, I'll spare you that. But hold the grapefruit. I was like, hold the grapefruit. Why are we holding the grapefruit? Okay, what is that? That's not connected to anything. And I didn't go to school for acting, but I knew I wanted to connect. I wanted to be like, what am I saying? Why am I saying it? Who is this person? What's happening in the scene? Why am I not being honest in the storytelling? Then I discovered musical theater, and I think my first Broadway show to see was Les Mis. And I remember thinking, this is opera, but better. Like it's like emotion and storytelling, and the music is great, and they're like honest. Like I believe them. I believe that this is happening to them. I can't believe I've never felt this way before. And with the lights and the great sound design and all this, and I was like, this is my genre. This is art. I love music. I love all genres of music. For everybody that knows me, and I produce records, I love it all. But there's something about the stage when you can have great music and great lighting and great costumes and great storytelling and great acting that is the most powerful medium. So I got hired to do Some Enchanted Evening with Fred at Theo Ukwe. And I didn't know how to be a music director, but I knew music, and I knew how to be a good, choir director. I knew how to be a good vocal coach. I knew how to write good music. I knew how to do all of these, different types of things. So I was just going to do me. I was going to create art. So I got the charts and I said, oh, these are great songs. It's Rodgers and Hammerstein songs, And so I'm learning the shows. I'm listening to the shows. I'm like, oh, these are great. What if we did this? And I'm arranging them and like creating things. And Fred was very like artistic and collaborative. So we were making this show and this art, and we completely did our own thing and wrote these arrangements. Opening night comes. The press is there, which I didn't even cross my mind. I've never even experienced an opening night. This is my first one, and it's a little theater. The press loves it. We started getting good press. I think we got 4 stars by Chris Jones, which is 4 out of 4 stars, which is like the Chicago critic, and everybody was like freaking out, and I didn't even know why. I was like, well, it's just one man's opinion. They're like, yeah, but this is Chris Jones. This is a big deal. Okay, now, which is like Ben Brantley in New York. And they're like, this is a huge deal. He loves you, and he wrote good things. And I was like, why? I'm just playing the piano, so I don't know what I'm doing. Fast forward, my friends. I won a Jeff Award, which is like the Tony Awards for Chicago. I won a Jeff Award for not even knowing what I'm doing, but apparently people liked it. People thought it was great. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, maybe I should do music direction. This might be for me. And that's how I started on the path. Little by little, my friends, we're talking from a little tiny theater in northern Chicago with 60 patrons in the audience, and non-equity, I was making, I don't know, $75 a week, something ridiculous. It was nothing. It's basically you're doing it because you like to do it. I was building up and getting opportunities to do other things, and it was a slow go. 7 years, just I don't know what I'm doing, just like learning and learning and learning and learning more shows and listening to more music and reading more plays and understanding the genre. And by the time I got to the end of my Chicago career, which I didn't know was going to be the end, of course, but we'll get to that. I was performing, and I had won 4 Jeff Awards, one for acting, one for artistic specialization, playing the piano in a show, a stride piano, and 2 for music direction. It's crazy. I could not believe that it was happening. Just because it seemed to me that everybody I was working with, went to Northwestern or went to Michigan and like for schools for musical theater. And I always felt like, I didn't go to school for this. Like, do I deserve this award? Do I belong here? I love it. I'm passionate about it. But I always felt this sense of like I'm sabotaging or something. And that was a hard thing for me to deal with and to get over in my psyche. It still creeps up even now, and doing Broadway and doing Hamilton. So, this is what's crazy, friends. Adrienne and I were together at this time, and we wanted to get to New York eventually. We were setting our sights on something higher. We wanted to get to Broadway. But we didn't know how to do it, and I just knew that I wanted to have a job in order to move there. I didn't want to just move there and then start over, which I would be, but it was a tough decision. Really tough to decide to all of this growth I've had in Chicago. I'm just starting to get work at equity theaters. Maybe I can actually make some money. And then to move to New York, I would be starting over. Again, I don't have any connections. I didn't go to school for this. I am just trying to figure it out. I don't have friends in New York. It would be starting from scratch. I got a call from someone on the board of directors of the Goodman Theater in Chicago, which is a big equity house in Chicago. And he said, we want you to audition for an out-of-town tryout production we're doing of War Paint, the musical, starring Patti LuPone, Christine Ebersol, music by Scott Frankel, and lyrics by Michael Corey, directed by Michael Greif. We want you to audition to play Key 1 because the Key 1 player that's supposed to play it on Broadway can't make it to Chicago. We just want you to audition. I got you an audition because I saw you in a show you did a month ago or whatever, and I've been a fan of yours. Well, that blew my mind. This random phone call from someone who just happened to see one of these little shows I did in a small theater got me this audition for a Broadway tryout that's coming. So I was like, this is my big break. I'm not gonna blow it. So I got the music. They sent me the music, and I practiced my butt off for 2 days, just nonstop, practicing. It was hard music, very classical, jazz, difficult. But I practiced it, and I practiced with a metronome, practiced up to tempo. I got to the audition, and I played. I remember the music director, and I remember the whole, all the artistic team that was there, including the composer. They just seemed weary. They just seemed like very like, next, let's move on, And I came in the room, but like chipper and excited. And the music director was standing at the piano, Larry Yerman, who's a genius and teaches at NYU. He comes over to the piano and he's like, okay, let's start with, this blah, blah, blah song, I think Fire and Ice or something. And he was like, let's do it under tempo. It's really fast. And I was like, okay, I can do it at tempo if you want. And he kind of like looked at me like, nobody does it at tempo. We're not doing it at tempo. You can't do it at tempo. And I was like, okay. And he was like, okay, let's try it here. And I was like, and it went pretty well. I was playing the song, and you could see him kind of pep up, and he kind of up the tempo a little bit. And I'm, doing the thing. He's turning pages for me, and as it's going, he's getting a little more pep in his conducting. He's starting to sing along a little bit. I'm like, hey, it's going well. And I can see the desk of people start to they're starting to light up a little bit. And I'm like, yes, it's going well, but don't mess it up. Yeah, my hand's starting to cramp up, but I don't want to, if you've seen Whiplash, it was like, I'm starting to bleed. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, that went well. Then we did another song. That went well. And then we did a third song. Now the composer's coming over, Scott Frankel, who I didn't know. Scott Frankel, I didn't know he was, but he was a composer. And he comes over and he's like, that was great, and blah, blah, blah. Can I sit down and show you some stuff on this song? Because I have stylistic stuff. And he sat down and played, and then I played, and I was like, it's going well. Then some actors came in to audition. Now I'm playing for the actors' auditions. That made me real nervous, but it's going pretty well. I keep eyeing the music team to be like, is that good? They're like, the tempo, and I'm like, okay, And I'm just terrified of sweating bullets, And there's a pool of water on the bench, you know what I mean? Like, by the end of that audition, they offered me the job on the spot. They said, what are you doing? Would you like to join us? Couldn't believe it. This is my big break. I ended up playing the run of the show as Key One in Chicago, and then decided, and then actually within the same 2 weeks, Adrienne booked Lion King on Broadway. And if you haven't seen her story, you've got to check out that video where she tells the story of how she got Lion King on Broadway. It's amazing. We both did it. Somehow the universe had granted our wish. I was going to go to Broadway with this show, and she got Broadway and Lion King. It's happening. We got married. We decided to move to New York, obviously. We moved to New York, and then I realized that the Key One player that was going to play the show originally that couldn't do it, he's back. So he got his job back. So he's playing Key One. And then I don't have a job anymore. And I was like, oh. They said, but you can play rehearsals. Some rehearsals, and you can sub. You be in the sub list. And I was like, okay. So I joined the union. I'm learning all these things about 802 and my local and subbing in the pit world. I've never been in a Broadway pit, so I'm learning that. Even in Chicago, shows in Chicago are completely different than Broadway pit world. It's completely different. It's like one is like huge and like you can only do certain things and you play your instrument and you show up and clock in, And in Chicago, it's just like very mom and pop, like family environment. Show up whenever, love it. Anyway, so it was a big culture shock for me. I started subbing, just started meeting people. I did like a YMCA Little Mermaid up in Harlem, just trying to make connections, but I'm just not, nothing's happening. I don't know. I'm going to give up. I have to start over. I'm not doing what I love to do. I don't know what to do with myself. I get an email from Michael Ahrens, who's a music contractor, brilliant. Him and Michael Keller have a contracting business together. And they can contract for a lot of Broadway shows. He emailed me and said, hey, I got a spot open as a music associate in Hamilton for the first tour of the show in LA. And just want to see if you're interested. If you are, shoot, we'll give you the stuff and you can audition. I'm definitely interested. Emailed him back, yes, within 30 seconds. He sends back the music. He says, hey, you got a week to put this music together. Take your time, but just send it to us with a click and stuff. So I did it all night long. I'm staying up all night long. Okay. And I'm practicing. Videotape the stuff, sent within, I don't know, like 5-6 hours. Back to Mike Ahrens. Mike Ahrens said, wow, that's everything. Other people are auditioning, so we'll get back to you next week sometime. I was like, oh, shit, okay, so I'll wait. Ended up loving it. Long story short, ended up getting the job in Hamilton as a music associate and couldn't believe it. Then doing that, toured with Hamilton for a while, subbed on different tours, conducted the show, did Key 2, did rehearsals, did everything, but all that stuff. And then I'm tired of touring. I don't want to tour anymore. So I came back to New York and I was like, I'm going to do Hamilton on Broadway. Well, then Lack calls me, Alex Lackmore. He says, or I think it was Ahrens, same contractor and Lack. And they were like, hey, we need a music director for Dear Evan Hansen. I said, I don't want to tour anymore, but yeah, it's Dear Evan Hansen. It's amazing. It's Tony winner. Okay, yeah, all right, I'll do it. That's awesome. I want to be a music director. Okay, great. So auditioned, same thing. Ended up getting the job. Can't believe it. Dream come true. I'm music directing a show, but I'm touring. But I'm music directing a Broadway show, and it's amazing. So I did that. Toured for a year. Came back to New York. Want to be back in New York. Now I want to be doing a Broadway show. That's my next big goal. I want to be, sitting down with a Broadway show. I got back in with Hamilton, music, accompanying for Hamilton rehearsals, doing all that, subbing on key 2, and then they say, hey, let's train you on key 1. Let's get you up to conducting the show. I can't believe it. And then fast forward all the way to opening night for me of Hamilton Broadway, my first show. There I am conducting the show, where this story started. And here I am, my friends, and now Broadway shut down for a year, and that's where my journey is now. So the reason I tell this story is I hope that you can see the stair steps, the years and years and years and years of just one foot in front of the other, going for it. It was not easy. It was tough. It didn't, not making money, eating ramen and peanut butter, and not knowing people and not having connections and feeling a little bit like, I don't know if I'm making the right decision. But always, the whole time, putting my mind, I'm very stubborn. So when I have my mind on, I'm going to make it to Broadway, I'm going to do this. I think this is the best career for me. It's what I'm passionate about, and I think that I can do it. Believing that, and then one foot in front of the other. I'll leave you with this. One thing I used to believe growing up for a long time, kind of the way I was raised, was at every fork in the road in your life, you make a decision. You can either make the right decision or you can make the wrong decision. There was a song we used to sing in Bible school growing up. Just 2 choices on the shelf, pleasing God or pleasing self, something like that. So I always grew up with that. Can either make the right decision and please God, or I can make the wrong decision and please myself. And if I make the wrong decision, I'll end up and my life will be over. I won't get to doing anything I wanted to do. And I used to believe that I was stressing about every decision I made, and I can either do the right decision or the wrong decision. And what I've come to believe in my adult life that is different is I see life as more of a web now. I see all the various paths, the web of trails that I can take. And at each little fork in the web, you can go left or right. But it's not really a wrong decision. You can choose left, and you go left. You can choose left again, or go right or left. And you just keep making decisions. Now, what's interesting about this perspective is that if I keep my eyes on the prize, where I want to get to, what I want to be doing with my life, my goals I want to accomplish, what I want to see happen, if you keep your eyes fixed on that, no matter if you go left or right, say you make a bunch of less, you'll always kind of keep making the right to adjust back to the goal and back over here, and then I'll come over here and blah, blah, blah. You can see how no matter what choice you take, you can eventually end up you can have multiple paths for your life. You can end up where you want to go. It may take you longer. I think for me, it was like a bunch of lefts that went way out and around to my goal. Instead of maybe I could have just gone right here, went to school for it, went to blah, 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 and just been on Broadway. But because of the decisions I make, my path, my story is a little more interesting, maybe. Everybody's path is different. So I leave you with that. Beware of social media. Beware of comparing yourself to other people, to seeing other people's success, to even listening to the story and knowing that I'm conducting Hamilton and comparing to me. You can do it too. There's nothing that I'm doing that is profound. It's just one foot in front of the other, being passionate about something and working hard to make your dreams a reality. It's hard work. It's not easy. It wasn't handed to me. I have a lot of privilege and a lot of doors that were open to me inevitably without me even knowing it. There's a lot of luck. I didn't earn what I got. I didn't earn being on Broadway. It's just a lot of luck and being focused on something and then kind of trying to make it happen and waiting for those doors or windows to open so you can jump through them. Well, thanks for listening, my friends. It's not an easy conversation or story for me to tell, but I hope that it encourages you. I hope that you keep the faith, stay on the path. You can do it too, whether you're an actor, whether you're a stage manager, whether you're in the crew, whether you want to do sound, whether you want to mix the shows, or whether you are a musician like me. Maybe you're accompanying in community theater somewhere and you want to be on Broadway, you don't know how to do it. Just keep going. I'll do more videos about specifics and all the little things that I've learned and quirks in the future. But for now, that's my story. Reach out to us in the comments. Let us know any thoughts, what your journey is. I want to hear your stories and questions you have. And we're excited to be with you every Monday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time and Wednesday every 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you haven't seen the show where we sit down with our Broadway peers or Chicago peers or theater peers from all over the world, that's on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So hopefully we'll see you there. And thanks so much. We'll see you next time.